On this episode of Bite Sized, we are watching and discussing the 36th scene of the movie Twilight. For those of you watching along at home, that's from 47:21 to 48:39. And now, on to the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Bite Sized. If this is your first time listening, here's what's going on. My name is Ben. I am your host. I'm watching the movie Twilight one scene at a time with a different guest every week. I take one of my comedian friends or comedian strangers, send them anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes of the movie Twilight, and we talk about it for about a half hour. That's what we're about to do right now. Speaking of guests, joining me this week, our second return guest ever, a Chicago music improviser. You may know her from episode 6 of this very show, Lily Ludwig. Welcome back to Bite Sized.
Hello.
How's it going?
6 to 36. That's pretty cool.
That's 30 episodes.
You better be 30 episodes funnier.
Yeah, well, you better be as well. I honestly do feel like I am a lot better now than I was back then, which is why I'm kind of bringing back my early guests as a way of apologizing for not being as good at the job earlier on.
Oh, it was so fun. I listen to it all the time. I love to hear myself talk. Can't wait to listen to this one.
Also, I'm going to preemptively say, hello, Lily's mom.
Hi. Hi, Mommy. I love you.
Hi, Lily's mom and all of Lily's mom's friends in Arizona that are gonna hear this. Lily, I'm going to start this interview the way I start every interview, and you've answered this question before, so I'm excited to see how it goes. But what is your history with the Twilight franchise?
Okay, so recap for anyone who didn't jump from episode 6 to 36. I was in middle school during the height of Twilight. I was 7th grade, 2010, read all the books, really liked them, but it didn't become an obsession. It was more just, I loved books.
Yeah. That's it.
In general. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched some of the movies. I think I watched the second one on an airplane. I don't think I ever watched the finale.
Yeah.
But I read them all.
Yeah. Okay, then you get the gist of it. You know what happens. Anything happened to you in terms of Twilight fandom between now and the year that we've recorded? I would assume not.
I watched the first movie again.
Really? Mm-hmm. Was it different having watched it for this show?
I mean,
did you have a fond nostalgia for the scene that I gave you?
Yes, I knew the volleyball scene extremely well.
I'm sure.
There's a big difference, I'll say, watching it as a teenager versus an adult, but that's the same with any piece of media, I guess.
How different would you say? Different in what ways?
Well, I was just so enamored with it as a teenager, and now I'm in my late 20s, and I'm like, oh, these poor kids.
Yeah,
girl, look at those red flags.
That's definitely a recurring theme through as I have watched it as an adult, and I think I mentioned this on a past episode, maybe a few episodes ago, but I'm going to say it again, that a lot of the things that we knocked Twilight for back in the day, looking back, a lot of the bad decisions and illogical things that the characters do make a lot of sense if you remember, oh, they're 17, and I probably did dumb stuff when I was 17, so I can't be too mad at them for saying dumb stuff. That's
what I remember most from the volleyball scene is everyone's reaction is so real. It's so high school.
And by so real, you mean so awkward and stilted. Yeah, in a way that but
still captivating.
Right. And maybe to a young person might look like bad acting, but to an adult, you're like, no, that's how I really was back then.
That's just how my cousins talk.
Yeah, that weird forced laughter that Anna Kendrick does in the scene that we're not talking about today. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we are talking about a scene today, so let's get into that scene. We have our second dramatic Googling scene in about 10 minutes. That's right, this movie has given us 2 of them. Bella, she's had some more realizations. She's reading a book. She Googles vampire lore and realizes that Edward is probably a vampire. That's the overhead view. Let's get into the scene. What'd you think of this one?
Hot girls do their research.
They do. Hot girls love comparative mythology.
Yes. I listened to this podcast and I was like, I swear to God, someone already did the research scene. Are there 2 basically in a row? Okay, so the first one, she finds that book.
Yes.
And that's where she goes to buy it when she's ostensibly prom dress shopping, correct? Okay,
this
so now she has her book.
For those of you listening.
Yes. In the first couple scenes of the clip, she's looking at that book. I assume it's the same book. And then she goes back to Google again, which I love. Again, so real. It's 2 a.m. and I'm like, I have to know this thing. I have to figure out this guy.
It really does make me wonder. Oh, my dryer is playing a song right now. I should have turned that off before we
Schubert.
started recording. Yeah, that is Schubert. How'd you know
Yeah.
that?
I had a CD when I was a kid called Beethoven's Wig. Shout out to Beethoven's Wig.
Okay.
And it took a bunch of classical music and put words to them, and a lot of the words included the composer.
Okay.
So now, as an adult, I can be like, Franz Liszt.
That's incredible. When we got this dryer, when we moved into this apartment that came with this washer and dryer, it took me a long time to think that dumb song that the dryer plays may be an actual song, and I had to Google it to figure out what it was.
Something about a trout.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I'm astonished that you knew that much just based on the little beep boop clip that my dryer played.
You know why? It's because hot girls do their research.
Hot girls do their research. At any point during the writing or making of this movie or editing of this movie or production process at all of this movie, did anyone stop and say, hey, didn't we just do this? Like, did they really need to hit that 2-hour mark? Did they really need to fill it out with another Googling scene right after we just had one not 10 minutes ago in this same movie?
I don't think it's necessary for the movie at all, but I love that it's in there.
I love dramatic Googling scenes, as I talked about on the previous episode with Alley Gospel, I believe that was. I do love them. I think they're weird relics of a time when the internet was new and Google was still relatively useful. You're not going to get a scene like this today because just AI overview would pop up and tell her all about cold ones.
She'll be like, what's wrong with this guy at school? And it'll be like, one Redditor suggests
something like
dumping your boyfriend, lawyering up, and hitting the gym.
To be fair, 3 things that Bella Swan should absolutely do.
Yeah, she's weak as hell.
And she needs a lawyer real bad. She Googles cold ones. And if you Google cold ones right now, it's all beer related.
Yeah.
A one that is not cold is scarcely a one at all.
She's not very good at Googling. Honestly, she gets kind of lucky that exactly what she wants pops up right away.
And such a international wealth of knowledge.
Oh, we're going to get deep into her Google. You haven't seen my notes, but they're a lot longer and a lot more thorough than most other episodes, because as I was watching this, I watch scenes multiple times as I prepare for this, as I take my notes and things like that. And I fell into a rabbit hole of Googling what she was Googling and trying to figure out what she found. And it became this weird life imitating art moment where I was also doing my own little dramatic Googling scene. Not as fun as hers, though. And a lot of what she finds it's not real, but has been lovingly recreated other places on the internet.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
I assume there's some Twilight wiki or where you can find that website.
Oh boy. Let's get into, you know what, I guess let's get into that right now, because she Googles cold ones and fortunately finds a link directly related, several links related to Pacific Northwest Native American mythology.
Maybe Google already had that search location thing on.
Maybe. And she, had been doing a lot of stuff like that, searches like that 10 minutes ago in movie time. So maybe her cookies were just
That's right.
really on. She clicks on a link, and if you zoom in and look really close in the movie, the website that is telling her all about Native American vampires is freezerstorageds.com, which is...
What?
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. So I went to my computer that I was already at and put in freezerstorageds.com, and an intrepid Twilight fan in Germany has painstakingly recreated... Lily, I can see the look on your face. It gets deeper. It gets crazy. This person who I desperately want to talk to...
I'm already enthralled.
So if you go to freezerstorageds.com, you will see basically a recreation of the page that she goes to, but all of like the text, it starts off the same and then it gets into like, this is a recreation. I'm a big Twilight fan. I don't know what it says, but this is the link to the rest of my website. And the website that it redirects you to is twilight.land, where a very creative and incredible person has put together a Twilight fan website, but you can click on a link that basically shows you these 2 dramatic Googling scenes. It puts it on your computer like you just Googled what she Googled.
That's cool.
And you can click on the links that she clicks on, and it takes you to recreations of those pages.
Wow.
And then there's more on this same website where this person has done that same thing with other fake Googling links from other movies, including, for some reason, Christian Mingle, the Christian rom-com based on a dating website that I recommend nobody watch.
30 years old and only a couple of lousy short-term relationships under my belt. You're single and you're looking for a meaningful relationship. Find God's match for you at ChristianMingle.com.
I'm Paul.
Gwyneth Hayden.
This is weird, isn't it? It's a weird way to meet somebody.
It's a very strange new world.
But the stuff between never really changes.
This can only end badly. Sweetie, you're desperate and you're grasping at straws.
You're not
Christian?
When's the last time you stepped into a church?
Last month.
You went to church last month.
Okay, so it was a wedding. Being a believer, what does that even mean?
I just wish that you hadn't lied.
Oh, I've heard of the site, not the movie.
Yeah, don't watch the movie. It's not good. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But I was just so floored by this person. I looked up the contact info, and I'm really thinking about reaching out to Jens from Germany. I know from my hosting website, I have a few listeners in Germany. So Jens, if you're listening, please email me before I email you. But that's the story of FreezerStorageDS.com. She also sees a link from rockandroll475.com. I don't know who was in charge of creating this website that no one was ever going to see, but they didn't try that hard.
These just sound like email names,
They really do.
screen names.
And like we talk a lot about this same thing in the last one, so I don't want to dwell too much on it. But the fake links that she looks at in the last dramatic Googling scene, clearly a lot more effort went into those. Someone was slacking off on this one.
Well, they're like anyone who would pause the movie to zoom in and look at everything on her screen is already burnt out from the first research scene. No one.
That's true.
No one is ever going to pause and look
Surely
at both of them.
no one would do it twice and then recreate it on the actual internet. The link she finds leads her to the Apotamkin, which is a real figure from Native American mythology. Pronunciations vary. Not a vampire, though.
She does something that you see all too often when people try to do their research online, which is searching until they find the thing they're looking for.
Yeah.
Like searching until you find something that supports your claim. So if you're watching this scene, even like the short bits they chose to show, so like cold hands, speed, whatever, like, yes, that's true. Confirmation bias, whatever.
Yes.
But if you look at the pictures, like they're all so weird looking, like these giant skulls, or the one from India was like really scary looking, like a monster.
Yeah.
And then superimposed with like cutting back to this weird dream sequence she's having where Edward just looks hot as hell.
He does.
And so she's like, okay, the fact that all these websites from around the world have 3 keywords that line up with this guy, even though none of the pictures do, I'm convinced. It's like when someone's anti-vax and they like search for evidence on Google and they find one source that supports what they're saying as opposed to the billions that don't. And they're like, see, I figured it out.
And actually, to that end, I think you are right. I think that confirmation bias is playing a big part here, and that she's seeing vampire traits because she wants to see vampire traits. And if she actually looked up the things that I looked up, she would see that Edward's not a vampire. He's something different entirely.
You have a look on your face that means you know exactly what he is.
I've done a lot of research into this, Lily.
Hot girl. Hot girl shit.
I did my hot girl research. Specifically, I Googled Apotamkin, the things that she finds, and I found a couple results. The most important one was from nativelanguages.org, a website that it looks like is about 25 years old. I highly recommend you go check it out. But they describe this monster as often misidentified by non-Native Americans, particularly since it was in Twilight, the thing we're talking about right now. But actually, this creature has nothing to do with vampires. It is a giant fanged sea serpent and drags people, especially children, into the water and eats them.
See, that should be the sequel.
Yeah. Oh, no, this should be the whole movie. I'm saying when she confronts him about being a vampire, he should actually say, oh, no, I'm actually a sea monster. Because you mentioned the thing from India that he brings up, and I Googled that. They called that the Scourge of the Ganges.
Yeah.
And if you Google that, you get 2 results. One is about Twilight, and that's obviously not helpful. The only non-Twilight context that was used in was talking about a certain kind of crocodile. So there's actually a lot of evidence in this scene that Edward is some sort of sea monster or fish man.
You know what? Maybe that's why, and not to spoil for what I think is the next scene or in a couple scenes, maybe that's why she confronts him in a forest.
Yes.
She's like, if I'm wrong, he can't drag me into the sea in the middle of the woods.
Out of his territory is
Exactly.
neutral ground. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Nativelanguages.org goes on to say, really stresses that Apotamkin is definitely a sea monster. Those are their words. That's in stark contrast to vampires.com. another actual website I found in my deep Googling that says the Apotamkin was a bona fide vampire with all the abilities and super strengths of vampires that we know. Clearly, vampires.com did no research outside of watching Twilight once and is not to be trusted.
I think they're also suffering from confirmation bias.
Yes, absolutely. And from not doing enough hot girl research.
Right.
If we've learned anything throughout the course of this episode, it's that Twilight.land and native-languages.org, very good websites. Vampires.com.
Vampires.yeah.
Vampires.com, a truly awful website that doesn't do its research and is now my least favorite website. If you want to go to vampires.com, you can see 15-year-old comments of people pretending to be Twilight characters in the comments of their vampire stuff. I think I actually have one that I did want to point out under this exact article from December 5th, 2012. I'm thirsty for more and I'm ready to go for it. Wahaha, from username A Vampire.
That's a real vampire for sure.
Not even a cool vampire name, just A Vampire.
Speaks for itself.
It tells you everything you need to know.
And he's thirsty for something.
And ready for more, ready to go for it or whatever. Bella keeps doing her hot girl research, and she shifts from broader made-up stuff from around the world to strictly sort of medieval Europe stuff, going up through slowly, and what I think is a pretty interesting montage of like art from the medieval period into like the early 1900s. She basically goes to my favorite part of the Art Institute of Chicago, the medieval art section.
This is when vampires start getting sexy and not
Yes.
crocodile-y.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we see a cool, sexy painting that's actually not of a vampire because I looked it up. It's an incubus. Get it right, Twilight.
What?
I know, right? And then it starts getting into like old vampire movies that I really appreciated. Really like old Dracula stuff. You even very briefly see Count Orlok from Nosferatu. You got to slow it down, but he's in there.
Do they have the vampire from the Count from Sesame Street?
No, they didn't have the Count from Sesame Street. That would be that would be incredible.
I mean, okay. Have you ever done research at like 2 a.m?
Yes.
And ended up still looking at what you originally were searching for an hour later? Because when I get on Wikipedia,
not.
I'm clicking blue links.
Yes, I'm going wherever the winds may take me. I wind up 5, 6, 7 topics away from my original tab.
Exactly.
And you have to make that choice. Do I go back and read everything that originally interested me, or do I just close all these tabs and hope that I one day find them again?
Oh, I keep my tabs open.
Oh, do you?
I can't let a tab go unread.
How many unread emails do you have right now?
Unimportant ones a lot.
Okay.
I get an email every time there's a delay on the CTA.
Oh,
so
no.
I had a lot of
You
emails.
get several emails a day. No, I close my tabs, and I also I try to stay at inbox 0, like no unread emails, no unread text messages. I try to keep it clean, you know?
My official job title is research assistant. Like I
Okay.
do research for a living. So
Well, shit, it's a good thing I got you on this one where she's doing research then.
and I had you intro me as an improviser.
Yeah, why didn't you say something earlier? I
more
think actually
fun.
on your last episode, I introed you. One of your titles was researcher or research assistant or something like that. Why are you holding out on me?
I'm so sorry.
Come on, Lily.
It's listen, whenever I talk to new people,
Yeah.
all they want to hear is the comedy stuff.
Yeah.
No one wants to hear about how much I love writing formulas in Excel.
Well, I want to hear about this now. How do you, as a research professional, what do you think of Bella's research skills? Because clearly she gets where she wants to go.
Well, okay, she gets a point for researching again.
Yes.
Like I know it's the same scene in
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, but you know, you can't learn everything in one fell swoop. I like that she's looking at different perspectives around the world, although these websites might be a little racist. I don't know.
Or just, yeah, honestly, it's all made up.
Yeah.
Like I Googled the...
But in world, she gets
yes.
a point for that.
in universe, yes, she does get
She's
into...
not US centric. She's looking at different. I'll do that too. You
Yeah,
know?
I do want to ding her for being a little Eurocentric because all of the non-European stuff she looks up is like old ancient mythology, and only the modern stuff is European, which sort of puts into this.
That's
I was
fair.
a history major in college, so I could also talk at length about this, but also like splits the world into civilized Europe and uncivilized ancient primitive everywhere else.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that's not Bella's fault. Maybe that's the websites that she found, but she could have been a little more expansive
I
into
agree.
modern. What are the modern vampire legends of Peru and Egypt?
I don't know.
Twilight, I would imagine.
Yeah, right? Imagine the scene was like 40 minutes long.
If the rest of this movie was just her looking up vampire mythology around the world, I think I would enjoy it more.
Look, if you're going to accuse someone of being a vampire, you have to be so sure.
You have to come with receipts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, when Austin and my partner and I went back to my parents for Christmas this last year, and my dad made an itinerary of everything we were going to do, which we laughed about, but actually it was such a fun weekend. Yeah. One of the things was Christmas bar trivia.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about this.
The night before, I stayed up until like 2 a.m. Googling most common Christmas trivia questions, and there would be sites like 75 Christmas trivia questions, 200 Christmas trivia questions, and I read all of them for hours because a lot of them had like the same copy paste AI kind of bullshit or whatever, but I memorized all the answers hoping at least to get a leg up. I was looking up Kwanzaa, I was looking up Hanukkah. I wanted to be prepared, and we went to this bar to do trivia, and every single question that they asked was word for word from the websites that I read. We got a perfect score in trivia, which never happens at bar trivia because bar trivia is hard because it's about every topic. But when it's about one topic, you can stay up for a couple hours and win your parents a $50 gift card.
Hey, that's not bad. Have they used it?
Yeah, they sent me a picture. They had a date night.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that saves you having to get them a Christmas present. Just whatever you brought down for them, you can take back in return.
I was like, this counts. It was $50.
Yeah, that's not nothing.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's why we do research.
I used to do something like that when I first moved to Chicago. I had no job, but I am a big trivia fan. So like me and my roommates, there was a bar near us that did trivia, and first place was a $75 gift card. So we would go, we would win, and like we only paid for dinner that first week. We went there, paid for dinner the first time, won a gift card, came back the next week, won again, used last week's gift card to pay for our whole meal, and just like once a week, dinner was free thanks to trivia.
That's the dream.
It's great.
That's so cool.
I felt really cool doing it. I'll be honest.
That's the coolest uncool thing you can do.
Yeah, exactly. It's
win trivia every week.
Yes, because if you don't do that, you don't eat.
Right.
Yeah.
And you did your research. You were a history major.
Right. I did, and only cheated sometimes. You got to do what you got to do out there in the world of bar trivia. Please don't tell anyone I said that. She's going through this research, like you said. She's seeing words and things that make her think of things that happened, mainly the van incident. But also she sees cold skin, and we flash back to Edward's cold hand from like 2 scenes and 3 minutes ago, which really confirms my theory that they're trying to hit 2 hours and just need to put stuff in there.
Yes, because isn't that the second time they cut back to the hands after she thinks about them?
I think so. And also, you don't know this because this episode hasn't come out yet, but in the scene prior to this one, she sees a flashback of a dead body, specifically the dead body's bare feet, 6 seconds after seeing them for the first time. She sees them and then 6 seconds later flashes back to just having seen them.
That's just an after effect on your eyes. You know when you see the sun and you blink and it's still there in your eyelids?
And like it's the 3rd or 4th in a series of other strange flashbacks. But like, how little do you trust us, Twilight, that you think we're not going to be able to put 2 and 2 together, that you have to show us the thing that you just showed us so that we remember and can make the connection that Bella is making.
I understand being annoyed by that, but as someone, look, I'm very smart, but sometimes I have a really hard time following books and movies, especially if there's way too many characters. I'm like, who is this guy? Why do I care? Is this the same old guy, or is there 2 old guys? I don't know. So I kind of love it when a movie holds your hand a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I am on board. I know exactly what I'm supposed to be remembering, exactly what scenes are going to come up in the future. I appreciate it.
Okay. I don't, and it makes me think you're just trying to fill time.
Like the movie does.
You know, and like I guess I can't fault the movie too much for that, but like,
especially because I love reading sci-fi, but sometimes they'll throw like 10 made-up words at you on the first page. I can't do it.
See, I like that though,
and that's fine. That's a different preference.
It feels
I like having my hand held a little bit, and that's okay.
Yeah, as we're working our way through vampire art through the ages, we do see Bella and Edward looking like they're in a Dracula movie. And it starts out black and white and kind of normal, but then I guess she falls asleep because it turns into Edward with like the most emo hair I think I've ever. You're like, all of these movies have some pretty MySpace ass hair in them, but this may be the most emo hair of any character in the movie. He has bangs.
They both look so pretty. They're both wearing makeup too. You can tell.
Yeah. They're both made up like 1930s film stars in like a gothic horror movie. I just want to know why they gave Edward bangs when he has bangs at no other part of the movie, and also bangs were not popular in the time period they're kind of trying to recreate there. It's a weird choice.
It's also her dream, right?
Yes.
Because she wakes up from it. And you know how in dreams you're like, I was at my house, but it wasn't really my house. And my dad, but he wasn't my real dad. Like that kind of thing. Yeah. It was like Edward was there. Well, he had different hair, but I think it was him.
Does that mean maybe then that Bella's ideal version of Edward has bangs like that?
I think so, but she's too nice to say it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and maybe he can't. This is a question I have, is that vampires, they sort of stop aging. Does that mean like their hair stops growing and you're stuck with whatever haircut you had when you got turned into a vampire? And like, can you get a haircut that just never grows out?
There's no way Alice had that cunty little haircut 100 years ago.
But maybe it was longer, and then she got it cut down to a pixie cut recently, but now she's stuck with the pixie cut. I'm going to have to sort of keep an eye on this as the movies go along. Do any of the vampires, does their hair get longer?
Yeah.
I know that hair keeps growing after you die for a little bit.
It actually doesn't. That's a misconception. Hair and nails, they don't.
Shut up.
Your skin is shrinking.
What kind of hot girl research did you do to find that?
I just like remembering things. I love a misconception that now I know that it's not true. And then I can be like, oh, no, actually.
Well, that just immediately debunks the point that I was going to make.
Oh, say it anyway.
No, that maybe because that's true, vampires' hair can keep growing a little bit. But I'm convinced now, because of what you said, that once you get turned into a vampire, your hair is stuck as it is. And because vampires in Twilight have super hard, like, rock skin, maybe regular scissors can't cut their hair. Or maybe it can. I don't know.
I think out of all the reasons people had to give Bella to not turn into a vampire, they should have led with that. As someone who used to be a teenage girl, if someone told me your hair is going to be the same forever, you can never cut, color, do anything with it ever again, so you better be locked into this haircut, I'd be like, well, forget it. Because it's so easy when you're 17 to be like, well, I love this guy, I'm going to love him forever, change me. But like, oh, but I can't play with my hair?
Yeah.
I'm about to get a very dramatic haircut in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And if I hate it, I want to be able to grow it out.
See, I come from this from a very different perspective, because as a man, when I think about that, I think my hairline will never recede. I can go back to where it was perfect. My hair was never like, oh, you should have seen the hair I had in 2012. It was incredible.
Really? You have a bun now.
It was thicker. And like my hair, and maybe it's still like this because it was, honestly, it's longer now than it was then. But my hair grew out and not down. Friends gave me a not very nice name that would probably get edited out if I said it on the podcast.
I said cunty.
Yeah, well,
have fun, actually.
You're allowed to say that. But in 2012, it was really, I did not get a haircut at all in 2012, and so by the end of the year, it was just massive and gorgeous. Girls would touch it.
Oh, nice.
It was
dude.
like really, my hair is really curly, especially when it's shorter than it is now. And so girls would be like, can I touch your hair? And I'd be like, yes, you can. Which is, looking back, one of those moments that I talked about in the most recent episode that I think you have heard.
The one with Sarah Murphy.
Yeah, the one
I just
where
listened to it on my lunch break.
Was that girl flirting with me, or did she just want to touch my curly hair?
Porque no los dos. This scene's important because it's gearing up for a big reveal scene.
Yes.
Like, this is not the moment that people remember, say it. But this is the moment that lets you have that big reveal.
Yes.
And that's why research is so cool, because you spend so long slogging through Excel, but then when you make those beautiful graphs and you publish that at the end of the week, what a rush.
Why have we been talking about Twilight this whole time and not started like a data analytics and beauty of Excel podcast? Because I also love tracking information in Excel and making it do stuff and formulas and things like that.
It's so fun. I'm getting this dramatic haircut on the day I turned 10,000 days old.
Oh my.
And I wouldn't have known that was coming up had I not been playing around with date functions in Excel.
All right, there you go. Lily Ludwig, if you had to give the scene a name, what would it be? And you knew this question was coming, so it better be good because it's also going to be the name of the episode.
Benjamin, do you even have to ask?
No, I know there's an obvious answer, but I don't want to tell you that there is.
Hot girls do their research.
Hot girls do their research. I would have just gone with hot girl research, but hot girls do their research is pretty solid too.
And I want to say anyone can be a hot girl.
Yeah.
If you do good research,
You're a hot girl. If you do bad research, I'm sorry, you're not a hot girl. You're a mid girl.
Yeah.
Lily Ludwig, if people want to see you do music improv or research assisting, or maybe follow you on social media, where can they do those things?
The best place to see what I'm doing, I try to post monthly what shows I'm in, is Instagram. I'm at lily.ludwig, Lily like the flower, Ludwig like Beethoven.
Dot like the little dot.
Dot like a little period in the middle of it. I do Baby Wants Candy in Shamilton at Second City. I do a show with you called Lost Realms at Otherworld. I'm in a show called Phony Award instead of Tony Award. Guess what? It's another improvised musical. And that one's with Laura Hall from Whose Line, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm doing something
you
else.
You asked me when this episode's coming out, and you haven't told me why, and the suspense is building.
Oh, I got a really cool gig that I'm not supposed to talk about yet.
Oh, okay.
But by the time this podcast comes out, I can.
Okay.
I'm one of the Baby Wants Candy cast members who's going to Fringe this summer.
Oh, congratulations.
In Edinburgh in Scotland.
Okay, so any of my United Kingdom listeners, head up to Edinburgh in August, right?
Yeah, pretty much the whole month of August, and then we're doing like a 2-week tour of the UK.
Very cool.
In September, that's the plan. So if you want to see me perform this summer, get your passport updated and come hang in Scotland. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
Are you going to miss my wedding? We can talk about that after.
No.
Okay. You sure about that?
No.
Because Derek will for the same reason.
Oh, no.
We'll talk about that
We'll
after.
talk about it. We'll talk about it.
If you want to follow the show on social media, you can do so at bitesizedpod_ on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. If you're hearing this, that means it's June, and I'm finally consistently posting stuff there on a regular schedule again. If you want to talk to the show, me, that's really the only person, you can email myfavoritetwilightpodcast@gmail.com. If it's good enough, I'll read it on the show. All that information and more available at twilightpodcast.com. A generic URL that I own, suckitvampires.com, a bad website. Thank you to the band Swimwear Department for letting me use their song Mauled to Death as our theme. Thank you to my editor, Ben Oxher, for putting this episode together. Kellen Lutz, if you are listening, please get on the show. And also Jens from Germany, too. That is it. That is all we have for today's episode of Bite Size. As we always say at the end of every episode,
I love you, Oxher.
I love you, Oxher. See you next time.
Oh, I love you too. That's sweet. Usually I would put a clip from the scene here, but there was no dialogue in this one, so. How are you doing?